Hi, I'm Sophie and welcome to my world. Today I'm going to teach you how to take the lowly pool noodle and turn it into an amazing rain stick. And all you need are a few little things. I'm going to teach you how to make it right now. For this project, you'll need a pool noodle with a hole through the center, scissors, an X-Acto knife, parchment paper, duct tape, rice, 2 large wine corks, toothpicks, a work surface, and a small paper cup. Figure out where you want to cut your pool noodle. And again, make sure your pool noodle has a hole in it. This is super, super important. If it doesn't have the hole, it's not going to work. Now, if you go to my website, www.sophie-world.com, I have the rain stick also done with insulation foam. So if you can't find a pool noodle, you could always use insulation foam. So what I like to do when I'm cutting my pool noodles is I like to use one of these X-Acto knives that they're actually, I think, technically called box cutters. But you can scooch the blade out as far as it'll go and start your cut and then just turn your pool noodle. And that's going to ensure that it cuts all the way through and makes a nice even cut. So that's how I usually cut mine. Okay, first thing first. You're going to need about 15 to 20 of these fabulous toothpicks. But the thing about it is you don't want that sharpness on your toothpicks. So what you're going to do is you can line them up 4 or 5 at a time. And I would suggest some adult supervision for this. But you're going to just cut those points off like this. Take your scissors, and they just cut off really easily. But again, an adult might want to do this, depending on how young your artistes are. I've got a whole bunch of them here, ready to go. First thing first, take a cork. And this is very important. You need to make sure that your cork seals in there nice and tight. Now, if your cork is loose, you can always just add some duct tape around it until it makes it nice and tight. But you want to get that in there so that it's nice and solid. And here's another little trick. If you accidentally push it in, just use a dowel to push it out, like that. A nice long dowel will do you. So I'm going to insert the cork into one end here, and then as you can see, I don't know if you can see right in there, the cork is about to right here. So beyond that point, I'm just going to start placing these toothpicks. And I like to put them in a kind of crosshatch technique. So I go in the side, and then I go in the top. And I'm going all the way through. Now, if you do end up using insulation foam, you're going to need to make your toothpicks shorter because a pool noodle is nice and thick. And unfortunately, the insulation foam is not as thick. I'm just going to keep doing this technique. It's kind of almost like a little ladder. I'm just going up. Now, remember, this, if you're doing this project with small kids, don't get terribly worried about, there's being this exact structure to the ladder technique here that we're using. I mean, they can stick them on in at any angle, really. I mean, it doesn't really matter. What you're basically trying to do is create little pegs for your rice to fall against. And when it falls and gets caught on it, it's going to make that really cool sound. So again, they don't really have to go in any special way. But one thing you do want to make sure is that you don't do too many. If you do like 50 of them, then the rice won't even be able to get through. So you got to make sure that you leave some space. Now, I'm not sure if you can see in there, but you can see down. Can you see in there? You can see the technique of the cross-hatching it all. Now what we're going to do is add some rice. Now make sure that this is nice and secure. And you don't need much. About half of this little cup here will do. Excuse me, about a quarter of it. You really don't need that much. And you just squeeze the top here and pour it in. Now, if you don't have corks, if you don't live in an area that has corks, you can always take pieces of your pool noodle and you can push those in, then cut off the extra and then tape the outside, which I'll show you in just a second. But I do have a cork, so I am going to cork it shut. Get back in there. And I'm just going to test it and make sure that it has a nice sound. If I feel like I need to add more rice at this point, I could, but I think it sounds pretty good, so I'm just going to push my cork in all the way. Now we're at a stage where you get to have fun, which is to decorate with duct tape. And what I do want to show you is how you make sure to seal your ends here. So when you take your duct tape, you want to make sure that you're making your piece of duct tape, and I'm going to go long ways with mine, but feel free to decorate yours any way that you want. But I'm going a long ways. I'm going to give myself 1.5 inches at either end. Just going to smooth this down. I'm going to smooth it down. And then what I'm going to do is take this piece, flip it over, sticky side is up, and I've got my X-Acto knife here. I'm just going to make some cuts in with my X-Acto knife longwise, so that I can then take these pieces and just lay them down on the top portion of the rain stick here. See, like that. And then I would come to the other side, do the same thing over here, and I just continue adding lots and lots of stripes of tape so that it ends up with this pretty look. The last thing you're going to have to do is seal off the ends. So to do that, what I'm going to do is actually make myself a duct tape sticker, which is why I needed that parchment paper. So I'm going to make mine yellow here so you can see it. And this is going to lock in all those little pieces at the end that we had. Now I'm going to need 4 pieces of tape here. I'm going to make these about 3 inches long. And what I'm going to make is a double-sided sticker. And it doesn't need to be very big. It only needs to be as big as my pool noodle here. So I only need a little bit of this parchment. So take a piece of your tape, lay it down, then take your second piece, and like we do with regular duct taping, overlap. See that? Just make sure you overlap. Flip this over and line up your pieces so that you end up with a mirror image on the back side. See? Tape on front, tape on back. Now, if you don't have an extra little piece like this, you can always use your rain stick, but I've got this nice little piece here. And you can mark this with a Sharpie pen if you wanted to, but I've got mine marked with my finger here, or I can also just take my little piece, just cut around. And what I'm doing is cutting a 2-sided sticker. Just cutting it all the way around. And then what's great about this is because of the parchment paper, it just peels right off. And then I can place this on the end and seal off my rain stick on both ends. And there you have it. You've turned a pool noodle into a rain stick. Now, if you like this idea, make sure you give us the thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe, just click the link down below so that we can bring all of our videos right to you right away. For more great ideas, check us out, Sophie-World.com.